Welcome to Women of the Metaverse. I am Cheryl Laidlaw.
I am Angela Harkness. We have been and are still on a journey to discover the Metaverse, Web 3.0, NFTs, and anything that we are required to know to join this world.
From this podcast, we will help you to unlock how the Metaverse is going to impact your brand, your business, and even your personal life.
Join us as we take the mystery out of this new digital universe. Welcome to Women of the Metaverse. In this episode, we are talking about how brands will change in this new Web3 world. I think Cheryl and I have experienced this from different sides. Cheryl, we're trying to get clients to understand elements of design when creating their brands and websites and how the small details can make a huge difference. And myself, from a coaching perspective, it can sometimes be challenging to get business owners to understand the importance of a strong brand. I think over time, the word brand and marketing has become mainstream. And with the rise of personal branding, people do understand it more. However, there are still many businesses that have created beautiful websites and understand the look of their brand, but maybe miss out because they don't take the time to write brand values and understand exactly who their customer is and ensure that their brand is threaded through every part of their business, from the words they use to how they deal with customers, and also ensuring that the new employees understand the brand so it does not become diluted as the company grows. This is not just for small brands, but bigger brands also suffer from this as well. Just to give you an example, we talked about this in another episode where the brilliant Rory Sutherland was talking about customer experience and how important that it is in a brand. For a more high-tech hotel brand where you can open your door using your phone so you don't have to wait to deal with the check-in desk, to the opposite check-in experience at the Mandarin Oriental in Hong Kong, where they take you to your room and make you a cup of tea whilst you complete the check-in process. These are two very distinct brand experiences, but both know who they are dealing with. I think you have experienced that a lot with your web design, right?
Well, also, and not so much now, but they used to think that a brand was just your logo.
Yeah.
I say a lot of small business owners. So it's the whole shebang from your values through to, I mean, we talk about it in this episode, but
I had the same with coaching, just trying to get people to invest in it. You know, even that sort of doing your website by yourself or your logo by yourself and not understanding everything, even the way you take photographs for Instagram, as it was at the time when this was really becoming big. It's challenging to get people to understand how important it is.
Definitely. We got this from an article on Medium written by Ash B, who mentioned Kevin Kelly, who is the author of 1,000 True Fans. His vision was that the internet could be the perfect matchmaker, where creators and brands could find 1,000 true fans from whom they would make enough money to sustain themselves. But the internet being centralized and the majority of the content is dictated by Google's algorithm, if it changed, many companies were often screwed.
Do you remember we had one person that we knew who their whole business relied on Google and their position on Google, and then Google changed the algorithm and they almost lost their business. That's how bad it is.
It is horrific, actually.
Yeah.
Lots of horror stories. Then social media, which was an incredible way to show your brand for what it was and show the personality behind the logo, also became highly centralized and again at the mercy of the algorithm gods. But Web3, as we've talked about many times, is trying to be different. It is trying to move away from the hold of the big corporations and be a universe that is more about community than it is about followers. Whether that will be the outcome, we are yet to find out. But what we do know is that you have the chance to start now. Do your research, Take the time to think about your brand and what you want it to mean going forward and who you're going to integrate it into Web3. Are you going to change your brand values going into the metaverse? Who exactly is your customer, and therefore what is your community, and how you are going to guide them to take this journey with you? So let's break it down a bit so you can see the scale of how you can apply this in Web3. We're going to stay away from the technical side, but quickly note, because of this decentralization and blockchain, it will make the technology and your data more secure.
Okay, tokens. Tokens enable a value add to your brand that has never been possible. Loyalty can now be rewarded through the purchase of tokens for a worthwhile piece of the brand, and also help you to grow a loyal community. You only need to look to Bored Ape Yacht Club, World of Women, Be Friends, and in the most commercial sense, look to the Fly Fish Club and how they have grown very quickly a loyal community by creating a tokenized membership as opposed to the standard buy into type approach. The most recent one we discussed is Starbucks Odyssey, how Starbucks have taken their already successful rewards program and advanced it through tokens. The beauty of this is that they are not using wallets or cryptocurrency. You can purchase tokens in the same way you would purchase a cup of coffee. We will leave links to all of these episodes in the show notes. There are so many episodes. We have given ideas about how you can tokenize your brand and probably all the Web3 methods you can use. This is probably the easiest and cheapest to apply. But take our warning, it has to be about adding value. So many NFT releases these days, the rewards seem to be an afterthought. They don't need to be expensive for your brand, but they do need to reflect the fact that you want to share your brand with your community. For example, if you have a podcast, you could offer tokens where listeners could get exclusive episodes. If you launch physical products, tokens could again enable you to release exclusive products for token holders only. Or you could offer loyal customers to be top of your wait list. They don't even need to be income earning. They can sometimes be something that is offered to loyal customers, showing your community you care about them by offering them the opportunity to engage and give opinions about new products. There are no limits to tokens, and you can use them how you want. The key to this is to remember your brand values and to release tokens in line with them and your community.
The metaverse. This is a massive subject and may seem to some still a little out of reach or yet not a reality. But the metaverse really does enable you to show what your brand is about, because it really has the possibility to be limitless. So what we've talked about, how brands have built incredible spaces that you can visit that really highlight their worlds and what they are about, partnering with the likes of Decentraland, the Sandbox and Roblox. Retail and big brands have really caught on to the power of the metaverse. We have talked about them. Gucci, Louis Vuitton, Selfridges, even Clark Shoes have created a brand collaboration, and one of the most successful in the metaverse world is Nike. For us smaller brands, it can seem a bit daunting, but it is not impossible. One of our favorites, because they really stepped outside the box, is Wisher Vodka, who opened a distillery in Decentraland to help build a community around their product. But we do understand people being put off. Buying land is expensive, but does the cost outweigh the benefits? It is maybe worth time to research. However, if at this stage it is a definite no, you can still build a world for free in Horizon Worlds. You can use and personalize Horizon workrooms. You can hold events for VR users. Cost should not stop you from investigating and dipping your toe into the metaverse waters. It may even be possible to build partnerships with other brands so that you could find a collaboration way to enter the metaverse. Look at how the Fabricant have partnered with World Women. But what is important and why it is key to start and look at the metaverse as part of your future strategy is that it enables you to create a much deeper brand recognition.
It's important for people to start looking at least, isn't it?
Well, we've got Apple VR coming out this year.
Yeah.
They reckon it's going to be around £3,000, and I really feel that Apple are going to lead the way now. I feel that it's going to be, because all the apps are going to be integrated into the VR headset. It's just a no-brainer that people will be able to see that as something that they can use straight away.
Yeah.
Horizon,
The only problem I think it's becoming a little bit now is it's a bit like the like Echo and the Sonos and they don't almost don't interact with one another, do they? If you bring out a VR headset, you should be able to interact. That's the problem, is the interoperability, isn't it? You can't.
in my opinion, I think that's why Apple have actually waited, whereas Facebook released theirs, and then we had to connect them to our Facebooks, where it should have been a case of us connecting our VR headsets, signing into our Facebooks, and boom, everything's there. But it wasn't
Yes.
quite like that,
Yeah.
was it? We got our
No.
VR
You know, the
headset.
thing I find with this VR headset, so the Meta Quest, it's almost similar to having a PC where every one thing that needs updating, it has to be done separately, and there's no kind of integration into it. So if you've got a phone, whilst you have to update apps on your phone, you can choose to say update all and it does it for you. Sometimes the VR headset seems so lacking in integration that every
Yeah,
time you've got to come out, go back into Facebook, put this code in, link this code. And it's still, we're still talking about technologies. It's incredibly new, so it will get
yeah,
better. It's sort of, children in 20 years' time will be like, think it's similar to phones that only made phone calls. That's how new we are to it. But yeah, I think there's still a long way to go. But I think, like we constantly say, you have to just investigate, because if you don't, you're really going to be left behind, aren't you? So
Are you going to buy a headset, Angela?
probably, but
We'll see. We'll see.
I just have FOMO with these things.
I know, that's why I asked.
But yeah, probably. Anyway, so the next one, community. We cannot talk about this subject enough. Web3 is about community. It is about engaging with people who want to engage with you. No longer is it about following, but an involved community. TikTok is a perfect example of the start of this. Groups of like minded people come together to discuss. So you have book talk, garden talk, beauty talk, where people can really feel like a community. Don't get us wrong, TikTok can be a hateful place, but it shows the shift in how people want to engage with brands. One of the current trends, which is de-influencing beauty products, shows that people no longer have patience for the old school selling. I was listening to a video that was duetted on TikTok. The original creator, called Dara Denny, who is a content creator for big brands and works on a lot of paid for ads, said that there has been a shift and that creative is the only thing that matters. And it was duetted by a creator called JMO, who is actually the media buyer for VaynerMedia, so Gary Vaynerchuk's company. And he was agreeing with what she said. Basically, what they are saying is that it comes down to authenticity and creating for your audience and allowing growth that way, rather than putting money into Facebook ads and what hashtags are working and SEO. Not to say that they have stopped working, but again, it comes down to community. The reason why I'm talking about TikTok is we would say it was the first platform where it wasn't all about highly stylized content. So you can come on in your dressing gown, like Safina, to pack the kids' lunch boxes and be yourself and grow a following from that. Lex Nicoletta and Coastal Grandmother, Annie Vanderbeek and her Unnecessary Necessities, Alison Bornstein and her 3-word method, Sammy and It's Wednesday, Let's Get Dressed, and not to miss out Keith Lee, who at the recording of this show has reached over 10 million followers by sitting in his daughter's chair reviewing food. All of these people do something completely different but are authentic and have put their own creativity into the content they are producing. Another platform that is decentralized, which is free for you to use and a great way for you to build a community, is Discord. Many brands are really starting to build engaging conversations with their community in this space. You can offer open servers for anyone to join and closed servers for paying or for super loyal community members such as City Extra. Another perfect example of a brand that understood community, and we got it from the Ashby Medium article, is the Australian Open. Tennis fans are loyal, but the Australian Open found that during the pandemic, their attendance figures, not surprisingly, went down, contributing to a $100 million loss. So they got creative, understood their community, and created incentives. So they launched 6,000 NFTs. Each one represented a plot on the tennis court, which gave buyers the chance to own a physical piece of the Australian Open. Other benefits were also included, but they also created the Australian Open precinct in Decentraland, which included the Grand Slam Oval, practice village, press conference room, the gym, so they could really gain a tennis experience. There were gamification elements in the way of challenges. There were some live performances, but they also could engage with other members of the community. What they did with this approach was to show they understood how much people love tennis, how much they love the Australian Open, and how they opened their doors in a virtual way to give them this adventure. They didn't just push ads and products at them. This is not something to just think about when you enter the Web3 space. It is about what you can do now to start to take this on board. Who is your community? Who do you want to be part of your community? What can you do to show that you appreciate their loyalty? And what can you do to leverage that loyalty? The sooner you start, the easier it will be to take them on this Web3 journey with you. A lot in there about community.
I love what the Australian Open did.
Yeah, amazing. That's just really smart though, isn't it? Because it's just, they just looked at it from rather than, oh, let's just throw more ads at it. They looked at it from a really creative way. I mean, I don't have the figures. I didn't put the figures down, but they really, really managed to grow their income that way as well. So it's just a smart way to think about it.
Yeah, I get lots of adverts from the Royal Ascot, and you could do so much there.
Yes.
So much.
Yeah, that's such a good idea, actually.
I'm sure they're on the ball, right?
Yeah, because it's difficult. Like Ascot's amazing to go to, but then there comes a point in your life when you're just like, right, I can't do it again. I can't stand in a dress and high heels in a field basically all day. You're just surrounded by drunk people, and depending on the weather, and it's a really small town, Ascot, to get to as well, isn't it? So they could do that metaverse. You're absolutely right. It would be brilliant.
It would be. Right, so let's go back to basics. What is your brand? What do you want your brand to stand for? Now is the time to take a really deep, deep dive into your brand DNA and really lay out what it is. Does it still reflect you? What is the true purpose of your business? We suggest that you take some time out by yourself or with a team, or if you have a budget, use the help of an expert who understands Web3 and can help create a brand strategy that will take you into the next version of the internet. Some of the questions that you can ask, and again, I won't go through them all, we can put them in the show notes. What are your brand values? What do you want from your community? How are you going to show up and be authentic? Who exactly is your customer? How are you going to engage with them? How are you going to build your community? What platform best suits your brand and your community? What is your brand strategy and for them to transition into Web3 when you do? How are you going to reward them for being loyal? How are you going to tokenize your brand? What are the first steps into the metaverse? and the list goes on. But please do go to our show notes for the whole list that you can go through with your team or expert. So these are just a few questions that you could be asking for you to create a strong strategy going forward.
Yeah. And they were just some questions. I mean, you'd ask more anyway, wouldn't you? You know,
Well,
I just,
if you
we
sat
were
down
just,
with an expert, they'll be able to guide you through it anyway.
but also the other thing that I was thinking about with this is it doesn't stop you. So think about the story we've talked about with Rory Sutherland. If you still want your brand to be very old school, it doesn't stop that. If you have a sweet shop where you have old style sweets and you still want to serve them in a paper bag, it doesn't stop you doing that. But you do have to think about continuing your brand going forward and building that community. So it's just important to just constantly think about it. Web3 completely enhances the way in which customers interact with your brand, giving them experiences that they could never get just by walking to a shop or going to a website. Cheryl sent me an incredible video the other day about a portal that was placed on a beach for a furniture store called Serendipity. And they create furniture inspired by sea creatures and being underwater. And they placed this thing on the beach. And when you walked into it, you looked like you were actually under the water, and you could look at the furniture that they created and you could look at their catalog. And we'll put a link of the video into the show notes, but it's a perfect example of what we're talking about. I can't even work out how they did this. I can't.
I think it was through the eyes of the VR set. No.
It was smart. It was clever, whatever it was, because it just looked like a picture, like a massive picture frame placed on the beach, didn't it?
Yeah, and he walked through.
And he walked through.
A
it was
magical
incredible.
world.
Yes. The point is, you have the chance to bring your brand to life in a way that you could never have imagined. And the technology is there to help you do it. This goes to you if you are looking to seamlessly navigate your brand into Web3, but it also goes to those that help navigation. If you are a brand consultant, web designer, business coach, creating content for your client, you need to know what is available now and what is coming. Through this podcast and other podcasts, through your own research and wherever you can get the information with people you trust, you need to start to have an understanding of blockchain, tokens, decentralization, the metaverse, avatars, AI, to name a few.
As a woman in the space, there is a chance for you to be ahead of the game and really forge forward before this is even a spark of an idea in another brand's thoughts. You could really make your brand stand out. We hope that you've enjoyed this episode. Join us next week as we continue our journey into the metaverse. Bye for now.
Bye for now. Thank you for listening to this episode of Women of the Metaverse.
You can find all information, links, and people we talked about in the show notes on our website.
If you have enjoyed this podcast, please comment and subscribe.
Join us again in the next episode as we continue this exciting metaverse journey.